right, Chris. Happy New Year, my friend. 2019 sounds pretty weird to say.
Wow, 2019. Holy cow. Getting old here. Ready for another year? It's going to be a good one, I think, for us and for all our Hot Toys collectors out there. Yeah, Happy New Year's, man.
Yeah, I know you and I are both coming off of a vacation, a mini vacation, at least for me, having a couple days off of my air quotes day job. That's what pays the bills. This is just our fun little chat to talk about Marvel and Star Wars Hot Toys. It was great to get away, Chris, and with reflecting on, I think it's like the in thing to do to kind of come up with some resolutions, and we'll talk some news. Some not a lot of news that we have to talk about, but we do have some. And inevitably, once we drop this episode, Chris, there's going to be a ton more news that's just going to avalanche out of control, and we're going to want to record again. But I do know this is not a huge goal for us, Chris, but I do want to strive for now. We're going to have the opportunity to record for a full year because we started last July, getting 24 episodes out this year. I think that's a very attainable goal. Make sure that we stick on with the 2 episodes per month. If we ever have the opportunity to do more, if there's any chances that we have to collaborate with other podcasts out there, that's definitely something we want to strive for. But we'd like to at least have 24 base episodes this year.
Heck yeah, that's a good goal. I'm totally down. I hope that we can at least do 24 and just see what happens this year. Any opportunities to do more? Hopefully we can.
We do have some news to talk about, but the Hot Toys got things kicked off pretty well already, and they had a teaser video that came out that they teased that something big was coming. It wasn't as big as we thought it would be, but it was a behind the scenes look at the company of Hot Toys, and they put out an 8-minute video, Chris, on their YouTube channel, and I've already watched it a few times. It is so fascinating. Yeah, obviously it's to help them sell more product, but it's just some of the little tidbits, Chris, that they dropped out of that were I wanted to go buy more Hot Toys. I mean, they definitely accomplished what they were looking for on that. And I if it's possible, Chris, I have more of an appreciation for their product now.
100%. 100% more appreciation in my opinion. They showed so much in that video. I couldn't believe it. It is only about 8 minutes or so, but Hot Toys has seemed very mysterious as a company. They like to hold back a lot of information and keep things behind the curtain, so to speak. And Howard Chan and JC Hong and all the other individuals that were involved with the video really opened up and gave us a look at kind of what goes on behind the scenes and kind of the path that Hot Toys has taken over the last 10, 12 plus years they've been around. So I definitely, it's going to be a video I'm going to keep going back to. There's a lot of stuff, a lot of little Easter eggs in there. I know people have dissected the video, finding everything that was shown, but if you haven't seen it, check it out. Go to their YouTube channel and just kind of take it in.
For me, I just assumed with their mass producing these toys, Chris, that when JC Hong came on and was talking about the paint apps, they literally have an entire team that is just painting the faces. And for him to say it takes up to 2 weeks to do a little bit on each one each day and like 40 different layers or something. I mean, wow. I mean, that's exactly why these things are what they are. And to hear everybody at Marvel and Disney just absolutely rave about the product. And this is something that I really hope catapults Hot Toys into the mainstream. I feel like absolutely now it's definitely a niche for collectors, and it's niche enough that we wanted to have a podcast about it and give our inherent ramblings from time to time. But yeah, I haven't taken the time to really see what hidden things they might be working on, but definitely an exciting time to be a Hot Toys collector for sure.
Yeah, I got the same feeling. I think if this video does kind of go viral to some aspect, I think a lot more fans will jump on board. It's really cool to see over in Japan and Hong Kong and stuff, the market getting into, getting more females involved. More women are buying these figures, which is great. And just getting out to more people. I know a lot of people that I talk to, they've never heard of them before, but they're big fans of, Star Wars and Marvel and DC and the other properties and stuff like that. And they wouldn't necessarily buy a bunch of them like we would, but they'll buy one or two to kind of represent their fandom. So again, if this can reach more people, I think Hot Toys has got something really good going forward. I mean, they've got a great thing already, but it's just get it in more hands of more collectors and more fans. It's just good for everyone.
I had to laugh though when they were talking about whatever they were when they were talking about what the style of Hot Toys is, and basically like we're just going for movie realism. And you look at different action figure lines and collector lines depending on the country of origin, and they're sometimes stylized. I know SH Figure Arts is a line that I used to collect prior to selling them all off for my Hot Toys. There definitely a stylization to it, and you see that from all different countries across the world. And it's funny because I feel like Hot Toys is almost a universal language because it is so realistic that it translates regardless of whatever country you are. And even our little podcast, I mean, we have listeners all over the globe at this point, which boggles my mind. And it's great to be able to interact with some of these listeners already. And we hope that more people kind of come on board and really appreciate and find that community that collectors like us are looking for, with like-minded people to, just nerd out about this stuff. And Chris, I know one thing that I have talked about a couple episodes ago, and we're still trying to brainstorm. We're talking about goals and things to do for 2019 is how to connect more with our listeners, because you and I get together twice a month at least. We talk about it. You and I are talking almost daily. We have our Facebook groups where we can interact and stuff. But sometimes it would be really cool to just sit around like a virtual table, have a couple brews and talk about, Hot Toys and collecting and all that other stuff. So we'll see. I don't know. We don't have all the answers. We have just enough answers just to figure out how to record these episodes as we are.
I'm down for that. I know some of our listeners have already inquired about situations like that and kind of coming together and just making it more interactive than just typing in some words on a group. Yeah, we got the year to figure it out. We'll try some things. If it doesn't work, it doesn't work. If it does work, maybe we'll continue the trend. Yeah, give us your feedback on the group, on our Facebook page, or, at the end of the episode, we'll give our contact information and stuff like that. So just shoot us an email and that sort of thing. So definitely let us know. We want to be able to provide as much interaction as we possibly can to all of our listeners.
We'll talk about agenda for the show, Chris, and our audio review of this episode is going to be Captain America from Avengers Infinity War. You and I both have the movie promo edition in hand. Luckily, the difference between this one and the standard version is just a couple accessories, so hopefully this will cover both. I know a lot of people have this in hand, but there's still a wave of people that do not have it yet, and it's trickling out from Sideshow and various other retailers and stuff. So hopefully this is something that people have in hand pretty soon. Chris, last episode I forgot the tradition we were going to try to have a little behind the scenes nugget of something from the Marvel 10-year book that I had found. So I found one, and we're going to be talking about it in Avengers Infinity War figure. So here we go. Easter egg from the book. During the opening sequence, a distress call emanates from the Asgardian refugee ship, the Statesman. The line was read by Sir Kenneth Branagh. Oh, I can't say the name. Was read by Sir Kenneth Branagh, the director from the first Thor movie. I thought that was an interesting connection.
That's pretty cool. I love it how Marvel will, make a callback somebody that was involved earlier in the series and give him a a little bit of a role, a huge movie like that. So that's awesome, man. I love it. I love those Easter eggs, especially ones that I didn't know.
How you doing with your MCU rewatch there, Chris?
Well, in the last 2 weeks, last time I think I had started Thor Dark World. I don't know. I think I made it about 15 minutes further in the movie in the last 2 weeks.
Well, I
Yeah.
surpassed you, my friend.
Oh,
I
man.
just watched on vacation. I right before I had finished up, I got to Avengers, and then on vacation, I on my iPad, I watched Iron Man 3 and Thor Dark World. And then last night on New Year's Eve, I watched Captain America: The Winter Soldier. God, I love that movie. It's so good. But that got me thinking too, because I don't know about you, but even though this is probably some of the earlier movies I've seen maybe upwards of 10 times, some of the newer ones, not as many, but knowing what I know now, going back, there's some times that I'm just like, whoa, like watching The Winter Soldier last night, and they find that Nick Fury is still, in fact, alive. The doctor that's helping Emma, I'm like, that guy looks awfully familiar. I'm like, oh, it's Joe Russo. He wanted a cameo in his own movie. And then he put himself in the Civil War, and he actually was in Infinity War and the park scene, but they had to cut it because the movie was running so long. So I thought that was just pretty cool that I'm like, I had to look it up online afterwards, but yep, that's my story and I'm sticking to it.
Good for you, man. For me, it's going to be a slow burn getting through this MCU rewatch. No, that's the thing about going back to these movies. You pick up so much more as you go through multiple viewings, and I'm just trying to get through Dark World. I want I want to watch Winter Soldier so bad. I just love that movie. But maybe this weekend. I don't know.
I think you had said something last time out too, Chris, that there's something to like about all the movies. And I would say my least favorite out of all of them is definitely Incredible Hulk, but I had always had Thor Dark World like right after that one. And it wasn't as bad as I remember, but I think I was giving it the benefit of the doubt that I found things to enjoy in it. And I think that's important. And I'm not saying you just have to like something just because, but we have so much hate in this world that there's no reason for me to get out there and start tweeting at the director of Thor Dark World and tell him how horrible he is as a person and
Yeah.
all that other stuff. Just if you don't like something, just don't say anything at all. But if you do
Right.
love something, go ahead and shout it from the mountaintops. I mean, that's one of the reasons why we have this podcast.
I know. Well, so the thing with Dark World is I love the screen time that Loki gets.
Yeah, that's what I was gonna say. Is
That's
that's
the
where
biggest thing for me.
it
Yeah.
saved it. Yeah.
But anyway, so yeah. Good luck with everybody else's rewatches too. I think some people could probably blast through them in a couple, a week or so. Not for us. Not for us.
Yeah, I think for me, I've got Guardians 1 and 2 up next, and after that, I think it's Age of Ultron. So I like the Guardians films. I've loved the first one when it came out, and as time has gone on, I still enjoy it, but I like a lot of the other ones a lot better. So we'll go there. So Chris, speaking of hot toys and dropping news, when they dropped an image recently of upcoming figure releases, and this, according to a couple people in our group, I believe it was Nick had pointed this out. This is something that Hot Toys used to do very frequently to get people to, what to expect for figures that would actually be releasing at Secret Base within the quarter. And it was pretty cool. I don't know, Chris, what did you think about the figures they showed?
Oh, I was excited to see the figures on there. I mean, some we kind of had a feeling. Thanos being one of them. I think a lot of people are getting amped for that figure.
He is
Uh,
so friggin' tall in that
oh my
picture.
gosh, it's insane the height difference when you put them next to each other. You kind of don't get it. I mean, I got the Age of Ultron Hulk, and I was doing research and looking at everybody's pictures and stuff, and then you get it in person, you're like, okay, this thing is gigantic. So I think Thanos is going to be He's close to the height of that Hulk. I know the first version of Thanos is not proportionate. That Thanos looks awesome. It's got me thinking what to do about that one. Doctor Strange, Infinity War. I mean, we know that's been a rumor that he was going to be coming out this quarter. Infinity War, Power Pose Hulkbuster too. And so going back to the video, there's the scene of them setting up at San Diego Comic-Con, and I think it's Howard Chan himself has got the Hulkbuster in his hand. He's setting it up, and it's just insane how huge that thing is.
It's huge.
It's so huge. So yeah, that looks pretty cool. Black Panther, and then also Justice League, Aquaman, and Flash. So those look good. And then the quarter scale Joker. I know a lot of people have been waiting for that. Yeah, I'm digging the image. I just hope it's kind of something they come back to. It gives people that a taste of what to expect instead of kind of stuff just dropping out of nowhere. I mean, sometimes that's fun too. I guess some people mentioned that in the past there was maybe one or two figures that they said were coming out, but then they just kept on getting delayed and delayed and delayed. And I'm wondering if that's why
they got away from it. Yeah.
Yeah. So we'll see. Maybe this is just them testing the waters to see how things go this quarter or, this half of the year, whatever it might be. And then, yeah, I don't know. It's great thing for collectors to get that taste.
Yeah. And you mentioned the Infinity War, Doctor Strange. Literally just today, we got the official release of that in Hong Kong at Secret Base. So that is now out. And there are already some people that have it in hand and have put up unboxing videos on YouTube. So those look great. I've already perused a few of those. I mean, that's just exciting. And I think that, we talked about that an episode or two ago, that one moved up big time in terms of timeline. And I believe the updated dates on Sideshow, is it January, February, Chris, or is it February, March? I think it's February, March.
I think it still says February, March.
Which would make sense. I mean, although we do know that the time frame between when something's released in Secret Base and when Sideshow has it, that used to be like a 2 to 3 month window, and now it's kind of shrunk down to about a month or so.
Yeah.
And so that'll be interesting to see. I mean, I know once people start getting their emails from Sideshow that, hey, your item's going to be unexpectedly available a lot sooner, that won't stink to get that email. I'll talk about that, how that's going to impact me in a little bit when we get to our collection update.
What did you think about the final product promo images of Doctor Strange that they released?
Very, very good. I think it's muy excelente.
Yes. Yeah, some of the
pretty good.
Some of the scenes they set him up in are just like, dang, I wish I could, come up with something like that. Yeah, that just got me so much more excited for that film.
Yeah, and I think I've talked about this before too, that just having more of an appreciation for the character, just seeing him really excel in Infinity War, kind of very much like Thor did. Thor's been around for a lot longer in the MCU, obviously, than Doctor Strange. However, I feel like Infinity War is where Doctor Strange kind of became more of a household name. Not that his solo film went under the radar by any means, but I feel like he connected more with fans in Infinity War.
Oh, yeah, definitely. I loved Doctor Strange in that movie. Yeah.
Eventually, Chris, this one will be a day one pre-order. We got the tease on New Year's Eve. I was coming back from vacation up in the White Mountains. I am sitting having lunch in Ossipee, New Hampshire, and I looked down at my phone. I'm like, holy crap, this is happening. They had a teaser image of Captain Marvel, very similar to the image that we saw last year. I could say that now because we're in 2019, of the Captain America figure that we're going to be talking about here, where they only showed about 3/4 of the figure or so. And people are getting hyped, reasonably so, about this figure, Chris.
Yeah, I know. I looked at my phone and it was like all these messages on there on the group and everything.
I'm like, dude, are you alive? Dude, yeah. Where are you?
I'm like doing a science project with my my daughter, just messing around with one of her Christmas presents, and I'm like, oh my god, I'm like, what is going on? So I'm doing that, and she's like, Daddy, come on, and I'm like, okay, we gotta wait, I gotta check out this image. I love it. I think the big thing with this figure is what looks like sculpted hair, and
Yes,
I
thank
think,
God.
yeah, I think people are really excited to get another female with sculpted hair, and the suit looks like potentially similar material to either Iron Spider. I mean, the colors are very similar, but it could be something like the material that's on this Infinity War cap. I mean, I just don't know. It's hard to tell with the image, but I'm ready for this figure to come out. Yeah, even though we haven't seen the movie, it's kind of one of those ones that is going to get, if it does get released before the movie, I'm ordering it first day.
Yeah, I think this one will probably be one of those ones that I think it's been further along in development than we think. And just
Mhm.
because it's the first introduction to the character in the Marvel Cinematic Universe, this one might end up with a short lead time. We've only been talking, we've only had the podcast since last July. You and I have really only been serious collecting for the better part of a year now, maybe a little bit longer with my case versus yours.
Yeah.
I feel like the Infinity War Black Widow had a really quick release from when it was available pre-order to basically right around the movie. I honestly think it might be a tall order for that to happen. We're talking January to March right now. We don't really speculate a whole lot on this podcast, but if they can somehow get a pre-order out within the month, which I think is doable, and maybe we're looking at a summer release. I know this isn't something that we all have potentially earmarked. I do, because I just know that when this figure comes, because the colors on this look extremely vibrant. I mean, this is going to pop on your collecting shelf, whether you've got a Detoff, a Billy case, whatever you've got. I think this is going to be a great piece to have in anyone's collection. I know we're kind of expecting this movie to be really good before we even see it, but it's kind of like when we're on the Brick City Blockade podcast and we talk about Dave Filoni, and Dave Filoni we trust. Well, Kevin Feige we trust, because Marvel has it just locked down at this point. I don't see this movie failing. They've got Captain Marvel in Times Square right now. They're getting ready to show a preview of the film in the NCAA college football national championship game coming up. So they're putting it out in front of all of us. There's really no chance this movie isn't going to be at least adequate, if not great.
Yep. I mean, I can't say it any better. But yeah, I think because she's going to play such a big role in Endgame, that this figure kind of gets a back-to-back boost as far,
Oh, yeah, I didn't
you
even think
know.
about that. I'm so focused on Captain Marvel, but if she does show up in Endgame, I highly doubt her costume's going to change all that much.
Right. Right. I mean, we know that she has a couple different looks in Captain Marvel, but we also don't know where those suits kind of fit in as far as the timeline goes. I'm assuming the suit that we see is going to be her suit, at the end of the movie and
Mhm.
into an Endgame. So it's kind of one of those things where, depending on how long Endgame is in theaters and how successful it is, it may get an early release. I mean, I don't know. Again, speculation. We don't do that much of. I can
Oh, we
see.
don't do much of it, but I'm about to. So I think we're
Yeah.
going to get a version. We're going to get a Star Force version of
Yeah.
the very muted colors
Yep.
from her, basically her Kree outfit. We're going to get the version we've seen, but I'm calling it right now, Chris. I think we're going to get a movie promo version of that same figure. And based on looking at the SH Figure Arts and the Marvel Black Series figures, the Marvel Legends figures that we've seen, I'm thinking that a movie promo version could come with a brown jacket, and I'm thinking it also might come with a helmet.
Oh. Please give me the helmet with a mohawk.
So yeah,
Yeah.
they're very likely. I don't think they would have they probably will have two different figures, but like they have for a lot of these, especially the figure we're about to talk about with Captain America, I think that's something that they could do, have an entirely different MMS number, but really kind of save on a lot of those production costs by still using the same kind of base figure.
I'm loving it. Give it to me.
Talking about some other stuff,
Yeah.
things that people are loving, Chris. Going flipping gears, we've been extremely Marvel heavy so far, and I know a lot of our listeners are also Star Wars Hot Toys collectors, but director Krennic
Oh, that's
teased.
yes.
Yes, that was in between our last episode too. And we only see it from behind. They obviously just in the promo image used a couple of the Death Troopers they previously released. Grand Moff Tarkin is in it as well, and you see behind over the shoulder of what obviously is Krennic, and basically says coming soon. So we at least know, and this is a figure that a lot of collectors have been just. You go into any of the official Facebook pages for Hot Toys, and every time there's a new figure released, they're like, "Where's Baze? Where's Vulture? Where's Cyborg? Where's all these other ones that you just they just every single time it's a figure that's not that.
Yeah.
It's just I just almost it's one of those internet rules. Don't read the comments. It's very much like I don't read the comments of anything that's an official like page like that because you're just gonna see the lowest part of society there when you see those things. But understandably so. And I know Zach from Collecting Weekly, I think he had posted on a few groups. He's like, all right, get ready, everybody. The secondary market for Death Troopers is going to go through the roof. And it has it to this point. I haven't checked any recent eBay sales, but I know a lot of people are pretty actively looking to unload some of the Death Troopers they have in their collection. And these figures were going for a pretty good rate a while ago. I was kind of actively looking for one, I'd say maybe 5-6 months ago, and just kind of stopped just because I couldn't find one at a price that I thought was good. So I think this is something that people that want Krennic are going to obviously want to have probably 1 to 2 Death Troopers to flank him. And I don't know if we'd see a re-release of this figure, Chris, but I think those are figures that are long sold out. I think they did 3 different versions. I could go and check our checklist at scavengers.com right now, but I know we have the standard version. I think there was a specialist and maybe a deluxe. And I think at this point most of them are going for over $300, which well over retail at this point.
Yeah, I've heard that some of them are going double retail, especially unopened ones. It's just funny how a little tease can cause a particular figure to just
It's like a ripple in the
oh my
force. I
god,
mean, it's like
it really is. It's crazy, and I love director Krennic. And we talk about Rogue One, our love of that movie. I think that people are going to start really trying to find these Rogue One figures again, going circling the wagon and coming back around. It's funny how some people are like, why would they release that figure? Because it's that movie is several years old and stuff. But I mean, we're getting Iron Man's from Avengers and stuff like that, and people don't even. I mean, that's a different thing altogether. But I'm hoping that final product is a really great figure, and I'm hoping that a lot of people can pick this up. I keep on thinking, oh, maybe I can get some Rogue One figures, but I'm not gonna do it right now. But yeah, that's another one that kind of slipped under the radar. I think one thing that people are kind of talking about is maybe Hot Toys is gonna start doing these kind of tease videos more often, and a lot of people can throw out their where's this, where's that on those, and then when the official release comes out, it can be maybe some more positive stuff in those threads. But yeah,
and it seems like Hot Toys is using their YouTube stuff a little bit more frequently. If I was perusing their channel this morning and just trying to find the recent teaser video, and then obviously the Krennic video and the video that we talked about at the opening, And it seems like there was a couple year gap in between there. Between it was almost like they used it like 3 years ago, used it a little bit last year, and now we're just starting to use it again. So social media and short little videos with today's day and age, not many people are sitting around listening to hour-long podcasts like we are. We just can't compete with YouTube. I mean, that's why we are so appreciative of the people that do great videos. I know that we keep mentioning them over and over again, but a Paradox nerd, PJ, I mean, he's in our private Facebook group. He does great videos. You and I, Chris, we just are not necessarily technology inept, but I don't really have the time or the equipment to be able to put something good together. I mean, that's why we do these audio reviews. So, that's why we're going to shed the spotlight on people like, PJ, and tell people to go and check out his channel and stuff. And, as we go forward, just look for those opportunities to highlight the people out there doing really good things. I mean, we're not the sole voice of Hot Toys. We're just a voice. And there's definitely more room to talk about this thing that we all love and collecting this line.
So many great individuals out there putting out quality reviews on YouTube. PJ, he does a great job. Find out which one works best for you. There's just so many different avenues to go about with these figure reviews. And yeah, I would love to do it, but that's in a perfect world. I just don't have the time or equipment, like you said, to do it myself. And I know a lot of these reviewers get these figures way ahead of time, and that's just not really my style. I know we call ourselves the 6 scale scavengers because we are trying to do that, trying to make every buck count and really tighten everything up. Not putting anybody down that grabs them early, because hey, there's value in that, because if you get a YouTube channel that gets a lot of views, there's revenue coming back from that. So I can't fault anybody for doing it, but it's just not really my thing.
You almost just gave the origin story, Chris, of why we named the podcast what we did. I was just a name that I liked.
Yeah.
I like that. Let's put that on a business card.
Yeah, man, definitely.
Oh, good stuff. So,
so so sideshows, they're selling out of some figures. Some figures are going on wait lists, which is encouraging that these figures are, they're getting bought up and people got to jump on them when they can. So what figures have you seen go waitlist?
In between our last episode, we saw that Hella went on waitlist. So I went perusing on Sideshow earlier today, and I was actually surprised they had some Star Wars figures that had gone waitlist as well. Emperor Palpatine, I know that's a figure that has made a lot of top lists. I believe he was actually an honorable mention in Paradox Nerds top 5 video they just did. I watched today, which is great, by the way. That standard version is now waitlist. I don't know if the deluxe one is or not, but that's the one that costs a little bit more and comes with his throne room chair. To be honest, Chris, that's not a figure that I am intending to get, and I just feel like the throne just looks underscale. He feels like he's like really bunched up in there. Nothing to take away from the head sculpt and the face painting of Emperor Palpatine, Ian McDermott, and that it's a great figure. So that one has gone waitlist. If you were waiting around hoping that you got a couple, you got some money from Christmas or whatever that you wanted to jump on that waitlist, and it recently went waitlist. So if you jump on now, there's a good chance you'll still get the figure. The more and more you wait, and we're speaking from personal experience, Yondu, that the more you wait, the less likely you're going to get if you jump on that waitlist. A couple other ones too. The Heavy Blade Praetorian Guard is on waitlist. That from The Last Jedi, the film that everybody seems to hate, but a lot of people still love, like myself. And not surprisingly, just because I had this in hand, I ended up parting with it to our good friend Mark in Pennsylvania. Hoth Leia finally went waitlist. That figure is phenomenal. I'm surprised it took that long to go waitlist, to be honest, Chris.
Yeah, it's always interesting to see some figures just stick around, stick in stock for a long time that are great figures. But you just never know. You never know.
Let's talk about our own collection, Chris. And I know that we both have Captain America movie promo in hand because we're going to talk about that with our audio review shortly. Chris, anything else you got recently on the docket?
Yeah, I can't remember. I think I mentioned it last time. I had pre-ordered Iron Man Mark IV, so that arrived a couple weeks ago. And when I opened it up, because of your situation that you had, I was very leery about what I was going to find. And at first, I looked at it, I'm like, oh, this looks pretty good. I'm like, wait a second, his left shoulder doesn't look the same as the right one. And
Oh,
I know,
heart and throat.
I know.
Gulp.
Like, oh, not me too. The armor for the left shoulder had actually just popped off a little ball joint, and with some finagling, I thought it was going to be a lot easier. I finally was able to get it snapped on, no problem, no damage. I haven't had too much time to mess around with that figure, but everything you said about it is spot on with how awesome that is. And I'm hoping that I can make use of that unbattered Tony Stark head sculpt for something else. But yeah, I love that figure. Glad to have it in my collection. I had gotten a $50 off coupon from Sideshow earlier in the year in like this little welcome packet. And so I used that towards it. So I got it for a reasonable price. I recommend if you're on the fence for that figure, really get it while Sideshow's still got it in stock. So then another one I got, different direction. I had mentioned it last time. I had pre-ordered it, but the So Toys Iron Warrior Iron Fist figure arrived, and I had posted some pictures of that on our group. I love that figure. It's a great figure. The likeness to Finn Jones, Danny Rand, is just, it's good for the price point and everything. And then the other thing is the art on the box is just, it's phenomenal. The artist, or one of the artists, reached out to me, Christopher Nico, and had thanked me for posting on a couple of the groups and that sort of thing. So check out his Instagram page at Art of Christopher Nico. Lots of good stuff on there, so give him some support. How about you? Anything?
Yeah, that's really cool. I mean, that's one of the things that's so cool about, social media can be a good and a bad thing, and I think that's just one of the reasons why it's such a good thing. And you and I have talked about it a lot. I almost prefer Instagram to Twitter at this point.
Right.
That I get, I don't know if I'm just turning into a curmudgeon, Chris, but every time I get on Twitter, I just feel like this is not what I originally had signed up for. There's easier ways to connect with people, and I mean, Facebook isn't perfect, and I mean, there's all the security and all the other garbage stuff in the news about it. But for the most part, if you use it for what you need it to, I think it works really well as a social media platform. Yeah, I just, as I mentioned, have the Captain America movie promo on my desk. That was a very, very good day to receive that. That was in between our last episode. So I also did some pre-ordering, Chris, in between. I got enough reward points accumulated from a lot of things that shipped that I was able to finally get in a pre-order for the Mark 7 that I had always intended to do it, but I wanted to make sure I could get it under the $400 price point and then put that on a multi-month payment plan. So that knocked that down. I believe my payment monthly is under $50. So that's going to be a very good day when that finally ships. And as I talked about it, we're talking about Doctor Strange. I pulled the trigger on that one, and only because I saw that the date had moved up. I thought I was going to have several months into 2019 to be able to make the decision, maybe see it in hand a little bit. But when we had a feeling that that date was going to move up, I didn't really say jump the gun because I feel pretty confident in the decision and really already liking what I'm seeing out there. So sometimes those dates moving up can really kind of cause you to take action versus just maybe waiting. And we've also talked about recently especially with some of the Star Wars figures, just having more reserved for those and not maybe instantly having a day one pre-order, because Sideshow has a tendency to not really sell out of a lot of those, and you might be able to get like a free shipping deal on something. So, the one that's released so far that I maybe a year ago would have day one pre-order would have been the Endor Luke Skywalker. So that one's I'm going to wait on. Definitely still have my eye on it. Still setting aside budget money for it, but I don't really see the need to necessarily pre-order that one at this point.
That makes sense. Again, we're kind of feeling it out as we go, as collectors, see what works best for us. I don't blame you for jumping on that pre-order. The Mark 7 is one that I've got on my wish list, and I'm just waiting for a few more rewards points to kick in so that I can drop it down to, a reasonable payment plan price. So that one's that'll be pre-ordered pretty soon for me. Yeah, good stuff, man.
Yeah, I'd say probably after our next episode, I'll probably be pre-ordering the Mark 43. I'm still waiting for a lot of those other points to kind of kick in. Same situation. So not really any need to jump the gun and do that one at this point. We've talked about it a little bit. It being New Year's, it's New Year's Day while we're recording this episode. And I don't have anything specifically written down for this or giving it really any thought, Chris, but we talk about all the time. We always evolve as collectors, and I figure even if I were to go back and listen to one of our earlier episodes, episode 1, 2, and what we talked about then, I think could be even very different now. We're always learning. We're always learning from mistakes. Our interests change over time. And I don't know, anything that you can think of from the onset here, Chris, things that you know now that you didn't when you started out that you might do things differently, or are you just going to kind of continue to evolve and just see how it goes?
I think I'm just going to kind of just see how things go, honestly. When I first started, I just wanted to get as many characters as I could, that were affordable and that sort of thing. But I have changed here and there. Initially, I didn't think I would get more than one Iron Man figure. Got a few of those now, 3 of them now, and potentially, a couple more coming later this year. I didn't think I would have this many figures, actually. The big thing we've talked about in the past is that evolution, that maybe the quality over quantity. I've really shifted gears this whole year, and I told myself I want better stuff. I don't want more stuff. So I've been really working on selling off my Marvel Legends figures, and I sold off a lot of my Star Wars stuff that didn't really mean anything to me. I just got in that collecting mentality and thought I needed it. That's probably my biggest thing this year, is trying to get past that feeling like I need everything and just focusing on continuing to build on that focus side of things and trying to keep things relatively in check. I mean, I might have made a few purchases or pre-orders on other things recently. It's just getting stuff you like and that sort of thing. But I don't know. You talk.
Yeah, no, I think for me, I think it's been more willing, and I did it over the course of us starting the podcast to today, where I've felt more comfortable selling and changing my collection. And I think feeling confident to know to do that. And there's a few Star Wars figures that I'm already kind of earmarked to sell. And I'm kind of even looking at my case now and trying to fine tune that even more. And I have a couple figures, like I know that I went out and got a really good deal on the Finn figure from Force Awakens. Right now, he was a good deal, but he doesn't really fit my collection as much as it is when I got it. And he's taken up a very valuable space in my limited collecting room. I know even a figure that I really love because I put him on my top 5, but like my Anakin Skywalker, I'm like, oh, I really like it, but it's like I hate to vote figures off Detolf Island, but if I've only got so many shelves and space and stuff, and if we're going to be at this collecting thing for several years to come, I have to really think hard about that. And I think that's why I think a lot of our collecting update stuff has really kind of that has been more fine tuned lately. I know I went on a binge a little bit ago to figure out that I was really an Iron Man collector, but that's a whole nother story for another day. So I don't know. We'll just see. I think that's one thing, and to talk about continue with Star Wars, and I hate to say that there's anything that's an absolute, not to sound like a Sith, but I don't want to say like this has like Gandalf, you shall not pass. There's nothing that I'm gonna say that I'm not gonna potentially shift gears, but I think my resolution for this year is just to continue to adapt and not to feel like I can't pivot or decide to change things up if that's where my interests go.
You don't want to pigeonhole yourself as a collector and make yourself feel like you've got to stick with this stuff.
On that point, Luke Skywalker and Black Widow are focused collections of mine, and at the later part of 2018, I parted with a few of those. Didn't feel like maybe 6 months ago I would have felt like I was betraying what I was out set to do, but now at this point, I'm like, I really love the figure, but these aren't the best versions of that figure. I need space. I'm gonna decide to make a move. Again, like we talk about in the past, we've pre-ordered figures and canceled them on Sideshow. I mean, I 3 or 4 for each of us probably. And there's times that I'm like, ooh, did I really want to cancel that pre-order for Black Widow and Suri or Gladiator Thor? And I'm like, no, I think I made the right decisions on those, even though I decide sometimes I want to email Sideshow and like, hey, just kidding, by the way, I really want that pre-order back.
I don't think it works that way.
No, it doesn't. That's why I don't want to to go that way.
Man, so for me, it's a little bit tougher because of my situation, not being able to display everything. So everything, I take everything. Well, I shouldn't say that. I haven't. There's figures that I bought 8 months ago that I've never pulled out of the box. I know it's blasphemous, but it's reality for me. I just don't have them on display yet, and I kind of take them out. The handful, or the ones that I have been able to, and enjoy them, and then I tuck them all nice backly in their boxes. I think until I have a space to actually set them up and display, it's going to be tough. I might get everything out and start setting things up, and I'm like, why do I have this figure? Like, why? So
Guaranteed you're
yeah.
going to have that happen to you. Guaranteed.
So I'm kind of I'm just in a different boat here. I might, a year from now, might be a totally different story. I might have shifted gears completely, but I'm hopefully, fingers crossed, by the end of the year, our new house will be built and will be moved in, and I'll have a place in the basement for my collection. But that's one thing, not Hot Toys collecting related. If you're going to decide to build a house, expect there to be lots of delays.
Yeah, absolutely. The most important thing is you need a collecting space, my friend.
I know. The patience side of things has grown substantially. So that's why I don't really mind having to wait for some of these figures, because
yeah, I mean, you're like, well, I can't display them anyways. I might as well wait. Oh, shucks, this one got delayed.
Yeah, so no, it's just, I think, we'll kind of touch base as the year goes on to see how these things play out. But for me, it's just buy the figures I like and just go from there, and buy the ones that I can afford. And my cat is trying to knock down Corvus Glaive's staff right now, so I need to get the cat out of the way. I think it's going to be different for everybody. Obviously, the resolutions collecting wise, but I can't emphasize it enough. Collect what you like. Don't feel like you need to have everything, and don't be afraid to sell. I know Brian and I have talked about it a lot over the episodes, selling off stuff to pay for Hot Toys. I gotta say, the return I've been getting on my Marvel Legends figures has been surprising, and has afforded me to shift that towards the Hot Toys without much extra money coming out of my own pocket. And that's the big thing is using your collection as a form of currency and trading up, so to speak. And I'm just going to continue that. And I think,
Yeah, I mean, Bill Janowski of the Dork Lair is
yeah,
number one at the forefront of talking about that, and he even had a video recently on his YouTube channel about parsing out the Mark V SH Figure Arts figure and the Hall of Armor, and sometimes I'll go check out the video. I won't go over verbatim what it was about, but there's always opportunities to do that. And yeah, perfect. Yeah, your collection is a form of currency. You may have already spent the money, but doesn't mean you can't buy and sell, which is technically a form of trading. It might not seem that. I just soapbox moment for a moment here, Chris. People that offer up trades on these Facebook groups, I'm not pretending to sound like I have all the answers, but sometimes like the things they're looking to do, I'm like, I don't really think you understand the value of some of these figures. Like somebody was trying to trade a Mark 6 for a Mark 46, just straight up. And nobody was commenting. And I was like, all right, I'm gonna be the Mr. Know-it-all here, and I'm just gonna be like, while I think I understand what you're trying to do here, I think you might find that the value of these figures are very different. And then ever since I posted that, there was a couple other people that piped in and were like, yeah, you probably are going to need to add. Somebody said it $100, and I'm thinking probably more like $200 to make that worth it.
yeah, that's one of those things where those trades, we've talked about them in past. Again, some of the trades that have gone down, usually they're one-sided and it's hard to get equal value. There's a lot of trading that goes on in the vintage Star Wars collecting community, especially with like rare prototypes and pre-production items. And unfortunately, it's like really hard to come up with equal value. Usually there's at least some money that's exchanged to make things work right. And a lot of people are just like, dude, why don't you just sell that, and then use that money to get what you want? But it's just that's a little bit more niche part of collecting, but it's still, I just don't know how. I'm not a fan of trading. Every time that somebody's wanted to trade something, like I was looking for, not to go off topic again, but I was looking for a pre-production item of an Ahsoka Tano action figure, and this guy had 3 different versions of it, and all in different colors, unpainted stuff, like really cool things, in my opinion. And I'm like, how much do you want for them? And he's like, well, I'm only gonna accept a trade. And it was like this extremely specific item. And I'm like, there's just no chance that I would even be able to find that item. And I don't know. It's just,
He basically at that point, though, Chris, I think he's just trying to get somebody to do the work
yeah,
for him.
yeah, definitely. And
I guess. Well, I guess when you have something that's rare, I think you can maybe call some of the shots. But one of the reasons why, and again, we talk about it often time. One of the reasons why we really love this line is if you want a figure, you can get it. It's not like it's a store exclusive or it's a Funko that's only at Walgreens on some Thursdays and sometimes on a Monday, or it never gets off a truck, or Target never stocks it, or it goes on sale on their website and it's gone in 2 minutes. I mean, those are the things that infuriated me about a lot of the other lines that, to be honest, I mean, it's really reassuring and relaxing to collect Hot Toys because you know about it so far in advance. You can plan for it, you can budget for it, and I mean, sometimes they sneak up and make it released early, but oh darn, you get your item that you wanted a lot sooner. I don't know. Let's get off these soapboxes here.
I know, right?
Let's
we'll
talk
just call
about
this episode soap.
yeah. It was about time. 12 episodes in, we turned into a bunch of curmudgeons that had to get on their soapbox multiple times, even though our tagline is we don't pretend to be experts.
Right.
we sound a little pretentious at this point.
All right, let's
we're really not bad guys. All right, Chris, let's talk about this Captain America figure.
Right,
and day one pre-order, baby. This was April 12th, 2018. This went up for pre-order. We are talking about the movie promo edition from Avengers Infinity War. MMS 481, originally retail for 267. The standard version was MMS 480, retailing for 251. This one shipped to us on December 12th, 2018 from Sideshow. It was available, I think, November, if I'm correct, Chris, or maybe it was October overseas. I know some people were able to get this in hand a little bit sooner to do some of those aforementioned YouTube reviews.
Yeah, I think it was November, but I feel like it was November. I don't know.
This one was obviously, being a Captain America collector, that obviously this was going to be a day one pre-order regardless. And this is a figure that I feel like went through the rigors of the Hot Toys hate community of, oh, looks like Rick Grimes, Walking Dead, Andrew Lincoln. This one sucks. Don't get it. Doesn't look like Chris Evans. Doesn't look like he has in the past. Doesn't have his standard uniform. Oh, it doesn't come with a Captain America shield. I hate it. Chris, this just jumped to number 2 in my Captain America rankings. And there's times when it's tied with number 1, which to me, I feel like the Civil War version is still the top one. I don't know. I'm absolutely blown away by this figure. I knew in hand it was going to be a lot better than the promo videos. Excuse me, a lot better than the promotional images have. Even YouTube reviews are great, but there's no substitute for having it in hand and being able to appreciate all the little nuances about the figure.
Yeah, this is one of those figures in hand. Your opinion will change about it overall. The videos, like you said, just don't. They're good. They give you a good idea, but in hand, it's at the top of my Captain America list because
you only have 2. And it's funny because all the top ones are the last few that they've released. Go figure.
I know, right? They just keep getting better and better.
They do keep getting better and better.
Just first impressions of this figure, just an overall impression. This figure is everything you could want in a Captain America, other than a helmeted version. It's just helmeted head sculpt. It's just, I love this figure. I love all the detail, the suit. If they continue this technology with how they make these suits and everything, I can't even imagine what figures are going to look like in 3, 4, or 5 years from now, because they've really nailed the way the fit on the figure is. There's some positions it looks like Chris Evans, mini Chris Evans, is standing on my desk. I adore this figure.
Yeah. So I'm just gonna get my two little mini gripes right out of the gate here, and then I'm just gonna gush about this figure. This is probably gonna turn into one of our longer audio reviews just because I love this figure that much. The shading on the mustache is just a tad too dark, but knowing that, just having watched the behind the scenes video from Hot Toys, and the levels that they go to find all the pictures and source material and stuff, and they specifically made a comment, Chris, it's always going to stick with me. They said lighting can deceive your eyes, and we really take a look at that. So maybe it's just in some of the images that, or having watched the film, you're just like, well, his mustache maybe isn't that dark on his beard. I'm not going to necessarily always give Hot Toys the benefit of the doubt, but I think I'm going to give him the benefit of the doubt on that. The other thing, I wish the Wakanda shields, Chris, were a little bit more sturdy. They're a tad bit flimsy. I think for them to be more sturdy, they would have had to make them die cast, and I'm not sure that the size of them would have really worked. I had to, and it's just a tip for anybody, when expanding them out so that you have them kind of in battle ready, where the kind of like the talons are extended. One of mine, the shield part that got extended, it went out a little bit too far and it was kind of a little wobbly. but I noticed that it had a small Phillips head screw in there, and it was exactly the same size as the little screwdrivers they provide with any of the Iron Man figures that have come out. So I dug one of those out, tightened it right back up. Perfect. It's nice and sturdy now. So definitely be on the lookout for that. I know that there was a few people in our collector group on Facebook that had, just again that heart and throat moment, had accidentally damaged their shields. You do have to handle them with kid gloves, but the detail on them is just phenomenal. Those are the only two things, Chris, that I have a gripe about this figure at all.
Yeah, I'm on the same page with you on those two aspects. I think it's hard to figure out what would be better if the shields were die cast, or at least maybe had some magnetic feature, kind of like, which Captain America was it that had the magnet? Was it Age of Ultron?
Age of Ultron, yeah. But the other thing too is, as much as I'm kind of, they're made of plastic, they're not die cast. The engineering of them is just that's the part that kind of bogs my mind. The fact that you can have them displayed both ways and they kind of fold out. So it's amazing that they even found a way to make this work. But it's just a little flimsy. That's the only thing I just want to say is, if anybody doesn't have this yet and they're going to get it, and I definitely think anybody should, because this is one of those, like, we usually base it on like 4 stars, and this is the one that might exceed that. And that's just me being my own bias, just because of that's my own bias of being a Captain America focused collector. This one's definitely got top marks for me across the board.
Yeah, for any of you mechanical engineers out there, you might want to throw a resume over at Hot Toys to see what the opportunities are. Every little piece is a work of art, and I just marvel, so to speak.
It's amazing.
It's amazing. It's marvelous what it takes to get some of these figures made and to be so size accurate and just look like it's supposed to look in that scale, because there's other lines and stuff out there that don't quite hit the mark as far as the realism factor in that scale. So I definitely you just got to be careful with these things. It's tough, but sometimes unfortunately we got to live and learn. But that's why sometimes it's good to watch these review videos, because maybe there's some tips and tricks that aren't necessarily laid out in the instruction manual of things to look out for. Yeah, I'm right there with you.
All right, I lied, Chris. I have a third gripe, and it's not really a gripe. It's more of my own. Like, I aired on the side of getting the movie promo, because when we pre-ordered it, we didn't know what it was going to come with. It just said, "Hey, we don't want to spoil any plot points of the movie, so we're not going to show a couple of these different things." I feel like, knowing what I know now, I may have gone with the standard version, because I don't anticipate ever displaying it with Corvus Glaive's staff. And the Outrider thing is pretty cool to have on the display stand, but it takes up a lot of room, and where I have my other figures displayed, it's just, I'm not sure. And it also is kind of heavy too. So displaying a couple figures on a D-top shelf, it just might be something to kind of, keep them. But that being said, it doesn't always hurt. I have a tendency to go more for the standard versions, and I've talked about that prior, just because of the way I displayed things. For those that don't feel like they want to miss out on something, definitely go for it, because, as we'll talk about the accessories here, the staff from Corvus Glaive is just phenomenal, and it's huge. It actually is diagonally displayed across the top of the figure when you open it, across the plastic on the top. I mean, it's that big.
That some collectors have already set up their scenes, their Infinity War scenes, and having Cap grabbing Proxima Midnight's staff as he did, right? That's the one he grabbed.
Yeah, in the train station. Yes.
Yeah. That point of that movie, I love it. And I plan to mess around with some stuff like that. And then, yeah, Corvus Glaive's staff, again, the detail the detail is just nuts. Going down to all the grooves and the everything in it. It's just for me, I like all those little additional things, but do take into consideration, if you don't plan on using those, I mean, you can save yourself, 16 bucks or whatever, or buy the movie promo edition and try to sell them. We've talked about that.
Oh yeah, that's an opportunity to sell an accessory. Although
Um,
I definitely would have OCD problems with parsing out any Captain
yeah,
America figure.
no, I
So, but
agree.
yeah, the funny thing is like that Proxima Midnight staff, Chris, is pretty cool. That one actually does come with all of the figures. That was originally thought
Oh,
to be maybe a promo, but that does come with the standard one. The Clovis Glaive staff, and then the Outrider diorama. Those are what's exclusive to the movie promo one. So we're talking 8 different sets of hands, which Captain America usually has a tendency to come with a bunch of them because he usually has a pointing one and an open hand one most of the time to hold his shields. But with this one, he actually has the two fists actually work pretty well with the Wakanda shields. This is definitely one where I was extra careful with putting the closed fist hands in with the shields, and then they actually recommend putting the hand in first and then attaching it to the wrist, and that seemed to work out pretty well. I was so extra careful when I did mine that it took me a lot longer to do it, but I didn't want to break either of those two shields. So the two Wakanda shields we talked about, and then the two staffs, and then the Outrider that comes with that too. So I don't know if I'm gonna have that displayed with it, but it definitely is really cool.
yeah, I think adding for some people that maybe this is maybe one of a couple figures that they're going to have, and they have the shelf space. It's nice to have that additional feature, creature feature on there, just to give it a little pop. And then having the staffs, different staffs, you can set them up. Catching the Proxima Midnight staff, or even throw some of the weapons at, say, Black Widow, or I don't know who else.
Oh, that's
You know.
right.
So I've
Yeah.
seen some people having her set up, and it looks awesome. Especially, it really amplifies that figure. Giving her that big weapon. Yeah, I think that gives you a little bit of versatility with your whole lineup. If you're going for the Infinity War lineup, you could even have Vision lying on the ground with the staff next to him or something. I don't know. It's just fun to think about that stuff.
Head sculpt wise, we talked about that. To me, outside of the mustache being a little tad dark, I still think it looks phenomenal. I would say this figure has a lot of presence, even in a museum pose. And I have him displayed with both shields kind of just at his side and on the shelf that I do. The figure just, it, I don't know what it is. It definitely captures the essence of Cap for sure. So definitely high marks on that. I can't get over it, the detail in the suit, Chris. And per the canon of the MCU, basically him, Black Widow, and Falcon, they go off, and it's kind of the Secret Avengers, and they're off for 2 years and doing their own thing. It's intended that this is his Civil War suit that he had because it's the same exact setup and whatnot. He's ripped the star off. It's obviously seen some wear. It's definitely grungy. And the thing that I liked about this is they could have just easily just used the same suit and grimy that up. But you mentioned it, Chris. They used that different material, and that not the same material that they used for the concept art Captain America, but it does have some flex to it, and it has a built-in texture. And the Civil War figure, while it's great, is more of a cloth than this actually being a rubberized material. This thing does have quite a bit of articulation. Like I said, I'm not one to do a ton of poses and stuff, but this one definitely, it's just great. You can probably get this thing to move around quite a bit. Just the fine detail in the suit, especially around like the midsection where you can tell like the sections that used to be white are definitely grimed up quite a bit. The boots are pretty similar to what they've used in the past with the Civil War version. And the one thing you have to be a little careful, where he does have his sleeves kind of rolled up, you do kind of see a little bit of the elbow joint there sometimes showing. It's not a huge deal breaker whatsoever. But I don't know, Chris. I've been going on and on. I think people can tell that I really like this figure.
Yeah, I think they can too. Yeah, the suit is I keep looking at the suit. The tailoring, especially in the midsection, and really I don't know, it just amplifies it amplifies Cap's physique. It's just kind of funny saying that. You know, it makes him look. I just think that this suit, it's the progression of the technology that they're using for these figures. For me, now that I have this figure in hand, whereas before I kind of was pining for that Civil War cap, I'm kind of not anymore that I have this in hand because I just like the way that the fit of the suit is on this figure, maybe just a little bit more. Um, I don't know. Maybe that's a
No,
little.
well, the funny thing too, and just I wasn't planning on mentioning this too, but I think that for the most part, people are positive about this figure, even people that were kind of naysayers, and they're anticipating in Endgame that there's a chance we could get the stealth suit back, which if they get another crack at that with this material, holy crap. I mean, just having watched that film, you can easily say why Chris Evans thought that was his favorite suit that he got a chance to wear. And you almost wish that it was in the film longer than it really was. So there's a chance in Endgame you could get the stealth suit again. There's also a chance that you get more of the traditional scale mail, and you kind of see that a little bit in this figure around the upper torso. You can see where the battle armor kind of is coming down, where it's kind of ripped away there. And there's some speculation that the version that we see in Endgame, could be that traditional book version that we've kind of have always known and loved that could make a return there. So knowing that you might get like maybe 2 to 3 more caps in the next film, we're starting to see the Civil War figure drop in price. And I've seen some listings recently as low as 350, and I say that low as because that's around what I paid before it really skyrocketed into the mid 4 and 5. So I think that's just where this, just because a figure is highly valued today doesn't mean a week from now that it's going to be. And who knows? I mean, anything, it's almost kind of like the stock market. Anything that comes up could ultimately shift value. Going back a little bit further ago, Chris, talking about the Death Troopers, I mean, they were sought after before because they were a good figure in a good movie. But now the demand is spiked because now people want a figure that's no longer in production, and now they want to pair it with Director Krennic. I mean, knowing that these things are on the way is causing the market to course correct itself on Captain America. So, yes, perfect example. It's a good strategy never to really chase anything, just to chase it because you never know what's coming down the line.
Yeah, I was kind of you had tagged me in that one that was 350, and I'm just like, it's just too much for me to throw at that figure when I know that we could potentially be getting other caps going forward, and you know that they're going to be relatively speaking more affordable than chasing, and that's another thing that I'm gonna try to stop chasing some of the older figures. I feel like I have quite a few already, and doing that,
Yeah, I
doing
mean
less.
they're only going to get better as we go
Well,
forward. The better
exactly,
technology, and if
and
we talk about all the time, anything prior to 2014, it's not a bad figure. But if you just look at what they've done in the last 4 to 5 years, even since I started collecting to now, I mean, this cat figure is a perfect example where they're pushing the envelope, just like in that video they released. They're always looking to improve. Just because they did a figure one way doesn't mean they're always going to do it that way.
yeah, and you just hope that they're gonna put that into every figure going forward. And but just coming back to this figure, just when you look at this figure, the just the straps, the belt, the pockets, I mean, just everything about this figure, quality wise. I mean, you just it's hard to come up with any real complaints as far as the fit and finish of the suit and everything. That's why I'm kind of like, man, I keep looking at this figure. I look at the older ones. I'm like, this is if I don't feel like I need to do that anymore. So I don't know. What else do you have to talk about this figure?
I think we
Anything
pretty
else?
much have covered it.
Okay.
I think we're giving it kind of a glowing endorsement. This is the time of the show where I ask you to come up with some outlandish review criteria that we're going to do for this one. So what are you thinking?
How many Outriders severed limbs?
We'll go with Outriders severed heads.
There we go.
All right. How many Outrider severed heads, because we're going to get extra gruesome on this
Oh
episode, would
no.
you give this figure, Chris?
Oh man, I gotta give it 4 out of 4, man. I get a couple little gripes like you had here and there, but overall the positives far surpass those minor little things. So yeah, that's me. 4 out of 4. How about you?
Yeah, same. And I'm just kind of glancing over to my left, and I saw a figure we reviewed a while ago with Infinity War Thor, and that being a figure that in our last episode we covered our top figures of 2018. It was high on our listener ranking list. It was high on ours. I believe it was my top figure. It has that same. This figure has that same kind of commanding presence
Mhm.
that it. I mean, I'm really excited for what this line could be going forward, and it's really close. I mean, this is a 1A and a 1B with a Civil War figure. I think if anybody didn't have that in hand, I actually, if you would have asked me in November if somebody was looking for a Captain America figure and they were on it to get one, I would have instantly told them, okay, well, Civil War #1, Age of Ultron #2, and then from there, a lot of the other ones have some positives, but also have some negatives about them as well. That, I mean, this is right there, and I think, to put myself in your shoes, probably about April last year, you're like, okay, well, I don't have Captain America in my collection. This is a version that we know is probably only going to be around for one film, and you talk about that often, Chris, about the representation of the figure or whatever iteration of it. Sometimes it's too finite, or there's too narrow of a focus to say like, okay, this is definitely something that I want. I think now I feel completely different about that, especially knowing that we're going to get more figures next film, and hopefully going forward too. And in my own personal opinion about this, I don't really feel like they could off Captain America. I think he's too iconic. They's just bread and butter. I think they might put him on the shelf for a couple of years and bring him back maybe with a different actor if they needed to. But the character itself, I think, is too important to the Marvel universe to have that happen. So I think we're going to get more Cap figures.
That is would be a really good bet to take. That I we should see more Cap figures, and let's just hope the Hot Toys keeps pushing the bar higher and higher, and we just keep getting figures to this quality.
Well, Chris, we have been going extra long on this episode, but that's all right. We enjoy talking about this stuff, and we don't talk about it all that often, at least once or twice per month. So, Chris, I think it's about that time. I think it's plug time. Let's go through everything that we've got going on with Six Scale Scavengers. We have our website, sixscalescavengers.com, where we have the checklist that we've referenced in this episode, and links to other friends of ours that are out there, other people doing great things out there. We mentioned Paradox Nerd, PJ on YouTube. We're going to start highlighting more of his stuff going forward. Personally, think he's a great reviewer, does great work, very professional. Check out his videos if you haven't done that already. We have our T Public store where you can get some Six Scale Scavenger t-shirts out there. Chris and I get a couple dollars on each sale that helps pay for our hosting fees. We have our traditional Facebook page. We have our Six Scale Scavenger on Twitter that we don't really use that much, but if you want to follow us, it's there. We also are on Instagram. We've mentioned it. We have that private group, Six Scale Scavenger Collectors, and I think we're almost at 60 members now. We're growing leaps and bounds, and it's such a positive community that there's daily there's always great chatter, and not much discourse, and very good debates, and some really good topics and stuff. So we talk about it all the time because we really do want people to get into that community and get engaged, because it's an extension of this podcast, and I think it's one of the ways currently that we have our listeners be able to interact with Chris and I, and just make those connections with other like-minded collectors out there. If you're listening and you think you've got a friend or family member that would also enjoy listening as well, we're on Apple Podcasts, Google Play, Spotify, Stitcher, and directly on Libsyn, sixskillscavengers.libsyn.com if you want to grab the RSS feed for yourself and your podcast catcher of choice. We are part of the Brick City Blockade podcast network. Find them at brickcityblockade.com. All right, Chris. Whew, deep breath. That's a lot. So what do you think? Great episode, yeah.
Great discussion. I love it. It seems like we keep going longer and longer every episode, making your life harder with the editing. But I greatly appreciate you doing that. I love what we've got going on. A lot of new members on the group. So yeah, we've got great discussions, like you talked about, great tips, a lot of ideas being thrown our way, stuff that we're going to hopefully talk about in upcoming episodes. And again, shoot us those ideas on what you might have as far as growing this interaction with each other.
Yep, absolutely, Chris. So until next time, Excelsior.
Excelsior.